My parents kicked me out on my 18th birthday for my pregnant sister. Now I'm thriving without them, part 2. Quick reminder, this is part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, watch it first for full context. It's linked in the description. Now let's dive back in. Update. The weeks that followed Kathy's call with my father passed quietly but not without growth. I didn't hear from either of my parents again, not a text, not a voicemail. Part of me wondered if their silence was meant to punish me, a sort of passive retaliation for not falling in line. But it didn't land that way. To me, it just confirmed everything I already knew. They didn't want me. They wanted my compliance. At the bookstore, I started taking on more responsibility. Inventory management, coordinating events, and even a few weekend workshops for local kids. It was more than just a paycheck, it was purpose. The store's owner, Maggie, noticed how serious I was and offered to mentor me if I ever wanted to turn this into a career. For the first time, I could actually see a future beyond school and survival. I saw potential. Kathy cheered me on from the sidelines, never overbearing, always present. She started letting me take over the grocery list, consulted me about little things around the house, and occasionally joked that I was running the place better than she ever did. It didn't feel like charity, it felt like partnership. Then one afternoon, while cleaning out some old drawers in the guest room, my room now, I found a folder with my name on it. Inside were printouts of scholarship options, financial aid information, and community college transfer pathways. Kathy had started collecting them long before I moved in. I sat on the floor, holding the folder like it was made of glass. She hadn't just taken me in, she'd been planning for me. Preparing for the day she might have to step up because my parents wouldn't. That kind of love? It's quiet, intentional, and it changed everything. That night, I told her I wanted to transfer to a 4-year university after next semester. She didn't blink. Just asked, "Where do you want to go?" I didn't know yet. But for once, the question wasn't terrifying. It was hopeful. I started spending less time looking back and more time thinking forward. The freedom to dream, uninterrupted and without guilt, was something I hadn't known I was missing. My life wasn't about escaping them anymore. It was about becoming someone I actually liked. And as the baby photos kept trickling in from Jessica's social media, each one more curated than the last, I felt no resentment. Just distance. A clean, earned kind of distance. I hadn't lost a family. I found a foundation. By the time winter crept in and frost started showing on the windows each morning, everything that had once felt temporary at Kathy's began to settle into something real. Not just comfortable, but rooted. Kathy and I decorated the house together for the holidays, stringing lights across the porch and picking out a modest tree from a local lot. We didn't go over the top, but it was ours. And somehow that made it feel more magical than any of the over-decorated, performative Christmases I had growing up. Back at my parents' house, holidays were scripted. The food was catered, the table settings matched the napkins, and the smiles were painted on for extended relatives who didn't even remember my birthday. I was expected to play a role, silent, smiling, grateful for a seat in the corner. But now things were different. With Kathy, there was no script, no judgment. Just music playing softly, the smell of cinnamon, and shared laughter over mismatched ornaments. She even pulled out an old photo album and added a picture of us decorating the tree together. At the bookstore, things started picking up. December meant longer hours and gift-wrapping chaos, but I loved it. I helped plan a holiday event for local kids, complete with readings and hot cider. Maggie, my manager, pulled me aside after closing one night and handed me a small envelope. "Just a little something for being the steady hands when things got wild," she said. Inside was a holiday bonus. Modest, but meaningful. It wasn't about the money. It was about someone seeing me and appreciating the person I was becoming. I used that bonus to buy myself a laptop. It wasn't top of the line, but it was new. Mine. I'd never owned something like that outright before. I opened it up in Kathy's living room that evening and started writing again. Just small things, stories, fragments of feelings, imagined versions of conversations I wished I'd had. Some of it came from memory. Some of it came from the life I was starting to envision. That's when the email came. It was early January, a gray Tuesday morning, and I had just poured myself a second cup of coffee when I saw it in my inbox. The sender? My mom. The subject line was simply, "Hope." It wasn't a warm, heartfelt message. It was carefully crafted as though she had dictated it to someone else. She said they were sorry things had escalated. That they never meant for me to feel unwanted. Jessica was the one who suggested they reach out, because she wanted her child to have an aunt in their life. She wrapped it in vague language about misunderstandings and mistiming, avoiding every specific detail of what they'd actually done to me. I read it twice, not because I was debating whether to reply, but because it was astonishing to see how far they'd go to avoid taking accountability. They weren't sorry. They were uncomfortable, and they wanted the discomfort to go away. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a while. I thought about crafting a reply that laid everything out point by point. I wanted to remind them about the cardboard box by the door, the way no one followed me out, the silence that followed. But I didn't type a single word. Some silences are boundaries. Mine had become a wall they couldn't climb. Instead of responding, I funneled my energy elsewhere. I submitted applications to 2 universities. One here in the city, the other in another state, where I'd never have to bump into anyone from that past life again. Both schools had stellar communications departments, and I had the GPA and experience to back it up. I gathered recommendation letters from Maggie, a professor at community college, and even a customer who ran a local nonprofit I'd volunteered with during the holidays. When I showed Kathy my personal essay, she read it slowly, then looked up with tears in her eyes. She didn't say it, but I knew. It was pride. It was a belief. That essay wasn't about trauma. It was about transformation, about choosing to thrive when no one expected you to, about finding your voice when everyone around you worked so hard to keep you quiet. I'm still here, still healing, still working, but for the first time, I'm not waiting for someone else to hand me a future. I'm already building it. Update. Spring arrived before I even noticed winter had ended. That's how things had changed. I wasn't counting the days anymore. I wasn't stuck in survival mode or keeping track of how long it had been since my parents last reached out. I was living forward. I heard through a distant cousin that Jessica had her baby. A girl. There were dozens of posts about it on social media. Photos of my parents beaming, Jessica glowing, the nursery in the background that used to be my room. Not once was I mentioned. Not in a caption, not in a tag. You'd think I never existed. And strangely, that didn't hurt. It confirmed everything I'd already accepted. I was no longer part of that story. They had written me out before I ever walked away. My acceptance letters arrived within days of each other. Both schools wanted me. Both offered scholarships. Both saw value in a story like mine. But I chose the one out of state. The one that let me start clean under a new sky with nothing familiar lingering in the corners. Kathy cried when I told her. Not because I was leaving, but because she was proud. She told me she'd help me move, help me decorate a dorm, even keep my room just as I left it for holiday breaks. She wasn't losing me. She was watching me take flight. The night before we started packing, I got one last email. My dad this time. It was shorter, less polished. He asked if we could talk before I left, just to say goodbye. I didn't answer, because the goodbye already happened. It was the day they stood behind Jessica and pushed me out with a smile. It was the brunch. The box is by the door. The silence that followed. I don't owe them a dramatic ending. I don't owe them closure. I owe myself peace. I'm heading to a place where no one knows my history, where I don't have to explain why I flinch at kindness or hesitate when someone offers help. I'm going to earn a degree, find new friends, and build a future so full that the past won't feel heavy anymore. And maybe one day they'll realize what they lost. But I won't be waiting for that day. I won't be watching. I'll be living. This story hit hard, not just because of what happened, but because of how quietly it happened. No screaming matches. No dramatic ultimatums. Just a girl erased from her own life like she was never part of it. But what makes this story powerful is that she didn't let it define her. She didn't wait around for closure. She made her own. And in the end, she proved that being thrown out doesn't mean being thrown away. It just means you're free to start something better. If your family pushed you out or failed to stand up for you, how did you move forward? Have you ever found family outside of blood? Let's talk about it in the comments. Hope you enjoyed this story as much as I do. Help this small channel grow by hitting that like button, subscribing, and sharing with your friends. Every bit of support means the world. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.